Okay, so default gateway. What is default gateway? First of all, let us look at here. A default gateway is a device. Of course, it's a device which is usually a router. Now, it can be a server or it can be a switch as well. Now, depending on which level you are, at an entry level, don't think as a server or a switch, okay? At an entry level, it is 100% always router, okay? So there can be situation where it can be a switch as well, okay? Like for example, if you look at here, you see this is a type of switch which is a layer 3 switch. So usually if you are using this switch, it cannot never be a default gateway. So this kind of switch can be a default gateway. Again, it depends on a lot of things, okay? That a computer, who needs the default gateway? A computer needs a default gateway. Is that clear? Sends traffic to when the destination is outside the local network, outside the local network. Now look at here very carefully. If you look at here, this one and this one, they are in the same network. They are in the same network. So if they are in the same network, the traffic will go like this. The traffic will never reach the router, okay? The only time traffic reaches the router if you are sending it to a different network. If you are sending the traffic to the local network, then the traffic will never reach here. But if you are sending, let's say this is a network and this is another network, they are in different network, okay? They are in different networks. So the traffic will be going like this way, okay? Maybe it will follow through this path. So in this case, you need to send here, okay? So this is your default gateway. This is your default gateway. Now, the default gateway, of course, it's an IP address. It's an IP address, and it will be highly likely the IP address of the router where your PC is connected to, where your PC is connected to, okay? Now, the gateway, what is the function of the default gateway? Is to forward the traffic to another network. So when you configure your PC, you have the IP address of the PC, you have the subnet mask, and you have the default gateway, okay? That is what it is. IP address, subnet mask, and you have the default gateway. If PC wants to reach this 1.50 network, okay, if it wants to reach to 1.50 network, so it is directly connected with 1.10. They are in the same network, so that is not a problem because the subnet mask is this one where the CIDR is /24. Now, if the PC wants to reach to 8.8 network, then the default gateway is 192.168.1.1. Okay, that is the traffic will be sent to the router because this is in a different network. This is in a different network. A few questions that will come. Now look at here. This PC is connected to this router, and also he's connected to this router as well. Like you can say because they're in the same line. However, this PC only knows about this router. He has no idea who this router is, okay? So your default gateway, you cannot say that this PC is connected to this router. Your default gateway cannot never be here. He will send the packet to him. This is the first step. In the second step, the packet will reach from here to here and then will go to the internet is the third step, okay? But the default gateway will never be this router for this PC, okay? Is always connected to the router. And now the question is another question. So if you look at here, for this PC, so if you look at here very carefully, this router has got three interfaces, 1, 2, 3. I know the default, this PC knows about this router, and who will be the default gateway? Is it 1, 2, or 3? How come this PC can come here? Okay, he has to always go through this way. He cannot come through this way, nor he cannot come through this way. Okay, sorry. Nor he cannot come through this way, okay? So the default gateway, just use the logical, 1 will be the default gateway. 1 will be the default gateway, neither 2 nor 3, okay? Now, the second question is, can a switch be default gateway? As I said, if it is a layer 3, it could be a default gateway. Now, if you configure the default gateway, so if you look at here, this PC's default gateway is, and the default gateway, if you look at here, they all have the same default gateway. Why they have the same default gateway? Because he's connected to this interface, he's also connected to this interface. So in the network, everyone will have the same default gateway. The PC IP address and the default gateway IP address have to be the same. I have seen people, like for example, if you look at here, 192.168.4.2/24, 192.168.4.1/24. By looking at it, you know that they're in the same network. I have seen people, they configure default gateway in a different network. For example, if it is /25. For example, it can be if it is 5.1. Okay, I'm just giving an example. So this is your IP address and this is your default gateway. Straight away you know that it is wrong. It cannot happen, because if your PC IP address and the default gateway IP address is not in the same network, that means they are not in that means your configuration is wrong. Your configuration will not work whatsoever. Now, can a switch have a default gateway? On a switch port, first of all, on a layer 2 switch port, you cannot configure IP address on the port. The only place on the switch you can configure IP address is in the VLAN interface. So if you configure IP address on the VLAN interface, of course your VLAN interface can have a default gateway, and again it will be the same. The default gateway will be your router's IP address. So this PC has a default gateway 10.1, this PC has a default gateway 10.1. This switch will also, so if you look at here, this switch, it says switch 1 IP address is 10.1. Actually switch 1's IP address is not 10.1, because if you look at here, this is 10.1, this is the IP address 10.1 here, and if you look at here, this IP address will be what is that called? This is something related to 12 dot, maybe this is 1, this is 2, whatever. And if you look at here, okay, don't because there are a lot many IP addresses, so there could be something wrong. All right, now the whole thing is, so if you look at here very carefully, this one will be 10.1, this one will be 10.1. so if you look at here, this is switch 2. Okay, it says 11.1 is the 11.1 switch to IP address 11.1. this is wrong. Actually this IP address is here, this IP address is here. Okay, this IP address is here. So if you configure an IP address on the switch, for example, if you look at here 1.1, okay, 192.168.1.1, so the switch to IP address is 10.2. this is wrong. Don't worry about it, because these are AI generated photos. Okay, so don't worry about it. The default gateway will be here, which is something 192.168.1.1. okay, and this will be 1.2 or something like that. Okay, now if it is 1.2, the default gateway is always the router's IP address. Okay, so in this topology, just don't worry much about the IP address settings, because with the IP address configuration there is something wrong. But whatever the theoretical things that I said, okay, the default gateway and your PC IP address will be always in the same network, and your switch cannot be a default gateway. Even if you configure VLAN's IP address, the default gateway of that VLAN interface will be your router's IP address. Okay.